Hello, hello. Good morning. Good morning,
Good
Jody and
morning.
Judy and Jamie. It's the J group this morning. Oh, I'm so excited about this topic today. So, of course, food, it's where I live. It is my thing. Although I will throw out a disclaimer, I really don't enjoy cooking. I love food. I love the healing properties of food. I love nourishing the body and feeding the soul. That is our topic today. Um, Although I'll be completely vulnerable and transparent here and say that there was a time where I looked at my children who are all hungry. Of course, I have a lot of children, so that adds to the chaos. But I looked at hungry little kids, and at the time I just had six. Now I have eight. But I looked at six hungry kids and I said, God, I think there was a design flaw here. Why did you make them hungry 3 times a day? Why do I constantly have to cook, feed them, 3 times a day, and they're always hungry? Like, couldn't we have a little bit more sustainability here? And it was really an interesting moment because I realized, reflecting, of course, I am a believer, and so there's some things about my belief structure that led me to this understanding that we were actually designed to have communion, to have this centered time of really um, be at peace. Like if you go back to creation, according to the scriptures, we were created to feast and walk on the earth with God, and we now we're in such a busy state of being that we are just rush, 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 food for survival, food for, getting all of the right outcomes in life. And it's just a different stage in this day and age, right, of food and nutrition and feeding the body. But for a while there I had a big conversation with God, like, what did you do wrong here? Why did you do this? But that was, of course, a different time in life. And now we are here and have learned so much about food and nutrition. This is really, like I said, one of my favorite topics. So, welcome if you're tuning in live. I am your host and founder, Dr. Jamie Lee, and I have this collective of amazing, fantastic collection of practitioners that are experts in fields all over across the board. And we're just basically a big family of just learning how to um, heal the body and put the body into that healing state and just really reverse some chronic conditions, or just have a healthier life. I think so many of us are looking for truth. They're looking for answers to how our body is supposed to be. Like, where's the instruction manual to this body that we were given? And everybody's body has a different instruction manual, right? So that's our journey. So welcome. This I wanted to go ahead and give a moment for everybody to introduce themselves. Judy, we'll start with you and kind of share a little bit about what you have to contribute here today.
Thanks, Jamie. It's great to be here. I am incredibly passionate about the human body, about the way that we were designed to heal with the proper support and the proper environment. And a lot of that support is nutrition. And I've seen the benefits of that in healing in my own life. And so I am an integrative nutrition health coach and I am a functional blood chemistry analyst. And my passion is to take all those things. What's going on inside of your body? How can we give your body the support it needs to do what it's designed to do? And that is to heal itself. And food is medicine. We'll keep coming back to that today, I'm sure. But food is medicine. It's not just prevention, it's actually medicine that can help you heal both on a physical level, on a mental level, on an emotional level. Like there's just so much packed into that food that can be life changing and life sustaining.
Yes, I love it. Judy, you have such a powerful story about neurotoxins, so I can't wait to dive into all of that as well. And then we have Sheila. Hey, Sheila, how's it going?
Hey, it's good to be here. Can you hear me okay? All right. Said I was muted for a second. I am a voice and
Good.
wellness coach. So love to talk about different things. I do focus on essential oils, and so plant-based medicine, that's a big area that I love. But I am excited too about nutrition, because a few years ago I went and specifically changed my diet to something that really worked for me, and I was amazed at the results and what I was able to find that I needed for my body. So I know it doesn't work for everyone, but for my story, it was absolutely amazing. And just what I have discovered through that has really encouraged me even on my journey. And then I also use some supplementation as well. And so there are some different products and resources that I've utilized on my journey that have helped, even just as far as outside of just the food nutrition, which I think is absolutely amazing, that I can speak to as well. But I'm excited to hear everybody what they've got to share today.
Yeah, awesome. Me too. Okay, and then we have Jody. Jody, I love that you're joining us on this roundtable because, there's so much involved in food with self-sabotage, which is one of your areas of expertise. And then there's also the subconscious mind when it comes to eating. And whenever we are emotionally tuned into our food, right? There is a big connector between what we're doing emotionally and subconsciously, self-sabotage whenever we're trying to stick to a diet and trying to find those foods and stuff. So anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Welcome, and go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit better.
Thanks so much, Jamie. Hi, everyone. I'm Jody Solberg, and I am a certified master hypnotherapist. I've actually been in mental and behavioral health as well as coaching for the last 25 years. And like Jamie said, for me, it's about our relationship with food and the associations that we make with things like the word diet, for example, and those influences, what we feed our bodies and what we feed our minds as well. And so I'll be contributing some of that today, talking about how our subconscious associates food with things like comfort or safety or rewards, and how our nervous system plays a big part into our functioning of all of our internal processes, and how those eating plans or lifestyles that we try to shift and change, like all of us have, in order to have more optimal health and wellness, how we respond to those changes.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. This is going to be a great topic. So this is, here's the thing. One of the reasons why I really focused an entire event at the end of this month on this topic is because it is so important, like Jody just said, to your mental health, spiritual health, physical health. It's all combined. So nutrition is really that first step. Most people, my clients, when clients come to me, they come to me because they have a chronic condition, but their first thing is they really want to get their food right. And I always say that that's their intuition leading them to knowing where to start. So they don't know, they know that they're just their food is off track. They don't feel good, and they can feel that connection to food. But almost every single client that I have had, once they come to me for food, it's like this transition from food to our spiritual health, right? To our mental health. And that food, and I believe that this is my core belief as to why this happens. Food contains frequencies. Our body contains frequencies. And when we are in this low frequency state, we actually gravitate to low frequency foods, right? So if you've ever been in just a mood while you're grocery shopping, it's 10 times more likely to grab the Oreos while you're shopping when you're in that low frequency state, when your mind is just not there and you're wanting to soothe, or going through the alcohol aisle, right? Because you're in that low state. However, when we are seeking that transformation, we're seeking better times, we're seeking better health and our highest, purpose for our life, we're gravitating towards those high frequency foods. which is I need to start eating a salad. I need to start eating, better proteins. And those high frequencies are elevating our frequencies into a different state. And then that is when we start to able to process some of those things on the subconscious level. Some of those traumas, maybe some of those wounds that we're carrying, some of those things that are bringing us down to those low frequencies. So I know this is all, metaphysical, and I mean, it is physical because it is on a cellular level. We are made of energy matter. But, there's, like I said, it goes from the physical to the spiritual, like it is mind, body, and spirit. So that's why we all come together today, just to kind of bring some perspectives here that you probably haven't heard about before. You probably haven't really dove into. But anyways, okay, so I get off topic. I got like a million tabs in my head because, like I said, I'm so passionate about this topic. I love this topic. But don't mistake. I really don't like to cook. So I love my husband to get in the kitchen and cook food for me. So that's kind of where I end. I actually like food in itself. I'm not one who just really thinks about meals and flavors. That's just not where I'm at. But I love the transformation that food brings. I love fully nourishing the body and the cells and the science behind it. So I'm going to go ahead and start with some of our first questions, and then I'm going to dive into what the audience has asked. So for those of you who don't know, the way this kind of works is that we will, like, throughout the whole couple weeks leading up to our roundtable discussion, what we'll do is we'll throw out some questions and some topics out there and just have everybody chime in as far as what are the questions you have. And then we'll answer them here on the live roundtable. And if we didn't get to your answers, we have a main event on the 22nd, the end of this month, March 22nd, that we will be going in depth, and we'll make sure that we answer all of your questions. And it's going to be this all-day event that you can pop in every hour on the hour and attend workshops from any one of these practitioners you see here, plus more, and really just engage. You're able to come on live and talk to these practitioners and just go more in depth as to why certain things are happening in your body, or what questions you have, what confusion you have. So it's such a powerful tool for us to be able to engage with you and really bring some understanding. I think that's the biggest thing. Is there's so much confusion, there's so many voices out there, and to really bring a unified voice is very powerful. So welcome. So one of the first questions I want to ask is really, what does fuel the body and feed the soul mean to you? So I think that this is just, why I wanted to bring this about, this topic. I wanted to really focus on this question because in everybody's area of expertise, the answer is going to be different. And so that kind of shows the diversity in each one of our expertise. So Judy, why don't you go ahead and share, what does fuel the body, feed the soul mean to you personally?
I think that, going back to what you originally said, Jamie, about, as a believer, as a Christian, we can look back to the beginning of time, and food and fellowship go hand in hand, right? Feasting and fellowship go hand in hand. And, my husband always jokes that, the celebration was never to kill the celery. It was always kill the fatted calf, right? And so there was this concept of like, food is life, food is celebration, food is nourishment. And it works because we're created as one body, soul, spirit, mind, emotions, like it's all one. And unfortunately, here, particularly in America, we've skewed it so that every celebration is food centric instead of relationship centric. And every event is food centric. I think the average person has a celebration that they participate in. It's like every 13 days. And it's like, so that's why it's really hard to diet. Because you constantly have that next event that you're trying to be like, okay, well, I'll wait until after this. And then you've got the next one. But when I think about fueling my body and feeding my soul, I think about how can I support who I am as a person. What brings that to me? And nutrition is going to be really important, but also enjoyment, also fellowship. Also, we have memories attached to certain foods. Fun little fact, after my brain injury, I had a traumatic brain injury after being head on by a drunk driver in a high-speed collision. And one of the things that I lost for many, many years was my sense of smell and my sense of taste. And if you gave me a food, if I could not see it, then I didn't know what I was eating. I couldn't tell you. However, if I could see it, my brain would remember what that taste was and would create that sensation in my brain and in my body. And there's more than one story that goes around when I was eating something and I thought it was one thing and it was really something else. And everyone let me enjoy it as what I thought it was until after the fact. So there's still some of those stories that go around because I was like, oh, this is fantastic. And it tastes like this. And they're looking at each other like, no, it doesn't, but don't tell her that. But it really is something where it's tied into our memories. It's tied into who we are, and it can be nourishing on that level as well.
Love it. I love it. Have you ever seen those reels on Facebook where someone is smelling the cheeseburger and then eating a salad really quick? It's like teasing themselves, like, getting in there to eat the right foods. But, our body is so powerful. Like literally it has those core memories, right? And I think that's the power of our subconscious mind. When we consume foods out of memory and out of habit, like for example, if you were to eat pancakes every single morning that were unhealthy pancakes, they had, preservatives and all different enrichment things that are not good for you. And then you poured lots of syrup on top of that and you ate it every single morning for years. And then all of a sudden you said, I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to eat healthy today. And then you made healthy pancakes where they're, good ingredients for you, very nutrient dense, good maple syrup or whatever it is you want to have on it. And you ate it the same time, the same day, or that next day. Your body is going to actually respond as if you're eating unhealthy pancakes because it has this core memory. It may be a little less, but it's still going to have that core memory. So the subconscious mind and our wiring of our body and the programming that we're doing in our body is so, so important. So really tapping into changing even just our habits and our rituals around food is so important. I don't know if you've ever experienced your body just staying at a certain weight, like it just remembers 155 and it just stays at that weight. There is some programming that has happened in your body that says, hey, this is normal. We stay at 155 and that's just what we do. It doesn't matter if you're eating whatever. So our bodies, learning how to communicate with our bodies, I think it's so important. And yes, I mean, like you said, all of our senses are important. And when we lose that, oh my gosh, it's just, it's going by that memory of those foods. And it's our body is phenomenal, right? Jody, do you have something to add to this?
Yeah. So, when I think of fuel the body, feed the soul, right, and what that means, to me, it really represents the fact that our mind and body and spirit are all intertwined. We somehow are programmed in our society a lot to think that we're so disconnected, or that our mind's over here and our body's over here somewhere. And that is absolutely not the case. Whatever we're consuming physically, I said mentally, emotionally, directly influences our well-being, and they're very connected. Like you said, your mind can respond with those memories as if, right, you were eating those unhealthy pancakes because it's something that becomes programmed really deeply in us. And so our subconscious mind really internalizes that energy and the intention behind what we eat And it's also about how we think and the words we speak to ourselves. So it's how we feed ourselves on all these different levels. If we're nourishing our bodies with these really healthy, vibrant foods, but we're still consuming toxic thoughts, we have self-doubt, these negative limiting beliefs, we can be spiritually and emotionally malnourished, and then that's going to translate to our bodies. And so it's really about alignment between all of those pieces and parts of ourselves to really integrate those things so that we have, yes, the physical health and well-being that's coming from what's going on emotionally and subconsciously.
Beautiful. I love it. Yeah. This is, like I said, it's mind, body, and spirit. You can't just address the physical body without addressing the mind and the spirit. It just doesn't work that way. I think that's the pitfall that people get into. They just get into these cycles, and that's the dieting cycle and this just the self-sabotage cycle, because they want better, but they're not addressing the whole body. They're only addressing the physical body. Sheila, what does fuel the body, feed the soul mean to you?
Oh, well, lots of different things, but it is important what we put in, right? Because then that's what we're going to get out. So by what we're putting in, physically, a lot of times I can tell if I am stressed and I am, snacking or eating things, I feel tired, I feel sluggish. It's just like your car, right? You want to put the right fuel in your car. If you put the wrong fuel in, what's going to happen? It's not going to run, and it's not going to work very well. So I always find that when I make sure I eat the right things or drink enough water, or just I'm taking care of myself physically, I feel better, have more energy, I have more to give, right? And with that, having the right fuel for my body, I actually am just more productive and I just feel better, right? I'm just more like myself. And that's been a huge part for me because, I have a sweet tooth. So I have to really temper that and have a lot of discipline. And I find that when I get stressed, that's when I'm like, grabbing for things. I do notice though that there is an essential oil blend that I use, and so it helps kind of curb cravings. And so, or if I need something like that, I get a drop of that oil. It has peppermint, ginger, cinnamon, grapefruit, lemon. So, you get like this whole, So it's great to kind of offset that, or even just inhaling certain scents, right? Kind of takes away some of those cravings if I start to want to crave something that's unhealthy. I also find for me that having a set a way of eating, okay, so I have certain foods I just do not eat or things I do not drink, that actually helps me because I don't have to think. I just know this is what I do. When I go to a restaurant, I get water. I don't have to worry about figuring out what to drink. I don't drink anything but water. So it makes my life so much easier. I don't have to think about it. I don't, so I'm very limited on grains and carbs. That for me has worked really well. I tend to do more of a carnivore diet, and then proteins, and then also more fats, proteins, and then lower on carbs. That works for me. I have more energy. So I know what I'm going to eat when I go in somewhere. If I'm out now at home, I love to cook, Jamie. I do love to cook. And sometimes it depends, but I love to cook. Yeah. My husband is the breakfast guy. He always fixes breakfast, and we have the same breakfast. That's funny you say that. Because we do eggs, and every morning, like, he will fix eggs, and then usually there might be some type of meat with it or whatever, but he fixes breakfast for us every morning, which I love. It's such a fun time. That's kind of our time. We, sit down and eat breakfast together. And then usually I'm handling the meals the rest of the day. But I do enjoy it sometimes because then I know what's in it, right? It's predictable. I know, and I'm able to put in the things that I want, the things that I can have, the things that work for me. And obviously for my kids, my family and stuff too, because I still have kids at home. So, I'm going to make sure that, I get something for them or have easy things for them to fix if they don't want what I have. But, I'll usually have a couple of different things going, so that way there's options. But for me, I find that works really well. So having something that's predictable is big. So sometimes if you don't plan ahead for fueling your body, it can be a disaster. So you do have to think ahead a lot of times when it comes to nutrition and food. And if you don't have that prep or planning, it can really set you back because you're going to grab the first thing, right? And that could be out the door, could be through a drive-through, and that may not be what you need. So that can, kind of set you in that reverse, like, oh no, now I'm going backwards. I'm not going where I want to go. And so that's something for me. That consistency is huge. And then having certain things I know I can eat and can't eat. I love that because then I don't have to think about it. And that to me really makes a big difference. And then I feel better, right? I feel better overall. So
Mhm.
not just physically, but emotionally, right? I don't feel discouraged. I don't feel like, oh man, that was rough and I'm having a bad day and now I'm tired and exhausted, which not only affects you physically, but emotionally, right? It does. You start to go in this tailspin. So for me, it's this cycle, and I just know the certain things that I can have that help fuel me and that help me be better prepared. So planning ahead is a big thing for me. It's been really great. When I don't plan, that's when I know I have trouble. So
Yeah, for sure. There is quite a bit of a mind energy battle whenever it comes to making sure that we're staying on track. But this is why it's important to talk about this today, because there are tools and resources to be able to keep people on track, to keep them fully nourished, their cells fully nourished, and really, you know, benefit them and as a whole, because food can either heal you or it can kill you. Like, it is that powerful. So that's why it's a great topic to really be addressing, and to really have an understanding of what it means to fuel the body. Which is a term that I use a lot in my coaching. Like, this is fuel. Like you said earlier, Sheila, put the right fuel in the body, fuel in the machine, right? Um, so one of the questions that we posted out to the audience was, what's the biggest nutrition myth that you've heard and want debunked? So this was a hot topic. A lot of people had a lot of insight to say about this one. Or they had a lot of questions, or a lot of myths, I should say. So Julia Gordon said, sugar alternatives are always better, especially for diabetics. This one, like, I could just scream. Right? It is so true that people, that they teach this or they promote this. I'll never forget when my dad was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. They gave him a form or a brochure that says living with your diabetes. And then it pointed to all of the artificial sugars that he could consume safely. And then when he, further on down the road, was diagnosed with a blood clot that started in his pulmonary artery and down to both of his ankles. It was one continuous clot. And he was looking at having both of his legs amputated, one or both of his legs amputated, just depending on how much weight he could lose. He was sent to a nursing home. And in this nursing home, the top dietitian in all of our area came in and decided to, put him on a program of restricted calories. And one of the things that she said was, she said, you're still going to be able to have the same foods, but they're just going to be lesser. She's like, so instead of a cheeseburger this big, we're going to have a cheeseburger this big, and you can have baked chips instead of fries. You can have a fruit cup, and when the dessert cart comes around, go for the sugar-free options on the diabetic table, right? And Judy, I know you have a lot to say to this too. But then she said, so you can have Diet Coke, Diet Dr. Pepper, Diet Mountain Dew, Diet Sprite. And I'm just like, stop talking to my dad. I'm like, you are going to kill him. Stop. And I was furious. Like, how on earth could they provide him with this information on a man who is practically, debilitated in his bed in a nursing home at 55 years old, and telling him that all of these artificial sugars were going to be a better solution to him? It just infuriates me. As you can tell. So Judy, why don't you debunk this for us?
Yeah, for sure. There was a study that was published in 2009, actually, that says drinking just 1 to 2 diet sodas a day puts you at risk for type 2 diabetes. All other factors being the same. Those artificial sweeteners wreak havoc on your body. And your body interprets them, your brain interprets them as sugar. And so you're still releasing insulin, you're still releasing glucose into your system. And not only that, but as a functional blood chemistry analyst, I'm going to tell you it wreaks havoc on other parts of your body too. Your organs of detoxification, your liver, your kidneys, your skin are all having to try to filter out these chemicals. And one thing that I like to say is if you look at the ingredients on something and they're not ingredients that you could have in your kitchen, just stay away from it. Because too often we do have all these chemical substitutions. If you can't picture it, when I'm talking to kids, it's like, okay, if you can't picture it and see in your mind what that is, then stay away from it, right? We know what a carrot looks like. We know what tomato looks like. So we would know like what tomato powder looks like for coloring or whatever. But what are some of these other ingredients? We don't know. We can't picture them. They're chemicals. And it really takes a toll on your body, which is why you need to do this, because your body is constantly regenerating cells. And I like to tell my clients, like, what we want to do is put your body in a position so that you're regenerating healthy cells, right? We can think about skin cells and bone cells and blood cells, but we also get taste buds, new taste buds every 2 weeks, y'all. It's a great fun fact for kids. You have a liver that you can leave just a tiny sliver of it, and it will completely regenerate an entirely new liver. I'm walking, talking proof that you can regenerate brain cells and neuron pathways. But it's so important what we fuel ourselves. And those chemical substitutions are never going to be a great option for you. So I love that that's one of the top myths, is that the chemical sweeteners are just as good, because they're really not. I mean, sugar in itself is not great for you. There are some natural sweeteners, things that are sweeter, that your body recognizes as food and knows what to do with it. But we definitely want to make sure that we're actually eating food.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so when I talk to my clients too, especially if they have a habit, right? If they're like Diet Coke, I have to have my Diet Coke every morning, and or something, Dr. Pepper, whatever it is that is like this really carbonated drink, right? And that's really what they're looking for, is that carbonation. There's two factors here. One, habit, right? So we've got this programmed that we have to have this carbonation. Two is our bodies are actually communicating to us something that we need epigenetically, and we are not connecting those dots. So if you think back to your ancestors, if you think back 6 generations, what were they making? They were making sassafras root beer, sassafras fermented root beer, or fermented lemonade. Like, I don't know if you've ever had that, but it's so yummy. I have a recipe for it. But any of these carbonated drinks are full of microbes, and it's full of that carbonation, right? Naturally occurring carbonation. And our body is saying, hey, we need those microbes because our gut is off kilter. We need more microbes. And so our body craves that carbonation, which is the feeling of those microbes that have made those living drinks. And so we keep going for the Dr. Pepper or the Diet Coke, and because our body is just craving it and we're not satisfying it. So now we're creating that habit. We're creating that addiction, right? And so we're constantly going for that. So I always tell my clients, if you're big into craving those things, go for a kombucha. You will have one kombucha, and it's going to give you all of that carbonated feel and the good microbes from your gut. and it's going to hydrate you. So like there's all these amazing, powerful benefits you're going to give you, and you're understanding what your body is actually communicating to you. And so there's this, like I said, there's this subconscious part too of the habit. Jody, can you kind of talk about that as well? Like when we get into those habits of I've got to have this. I know my mom broke habits when she was younger. She always talked about how I can't remember. I think she maybe like started smoking and then wanted to break that habit. So she gave herself a glass of water. So she just reprogrammed her brain to like anytime to take that hand in mouth, it was a drink instead of a cigarette. Can you talk a little bit about that subconscious habit that we have with the sugars? Why we're going in there. I know I'm kind of throwing you in there, but I think it's really important to really, address that, how to rewire that in our brains.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we have a habit, it is that neural pathway that gets reinforced over and over and over again. And so what ends up happening is it almost becomes unconscious because we've done it so many times. We have that memory. And so we don't even often think about it. A lot of my clients that I work with around their relationships with food and emotional eating will have these, subconscious habits where they'll be doing something before they even think about it because it's that quick. And so the way I like to think of it is that we are kind of creating a path, right? Like you're forging a new trail in the woods when you're trying to start a brand new habit. And the more you reinforce that, eventually it'll become a road. And eventually then it'll become the road you choose every single time. But those old habits, right, are like super highways because we've been using them for decades a lot of the time. And so that's really smart what your mom did because it's the same timing. So exactly what you were talking about, right? First thing in the morning, carbonated beverage. Okay, so what can we replace in that same sequence, right? Like you said, what can that be that is going to be a healthier alternative to that? And so for your mom, it was that hand to mouth. And whenever she would have those cravings, or there were certain times of day, right? There's certain things that get associated in our brain. So for example, a lot of times with smoking, people subconsciously will think, well, that's how I can take a break. Right? That's how I can give myself this break or this reward. And so what can you replace it with? So if you can do something that's still in that same path, that same habit of, okay, I'm going to do this, but instead of grabbing that cigarette, I'm going to grab that water bottle, right? And having that right there, that can make it a lot easier to make those changes. And it does take some time and it does take some intention of thought of, okay, so when am I doing this? And how is it playing out for me? And what can I do in its place in order to give myself the same type of feeling without having that substance or without having those negative consequences? Now, there's also the fact that sugar and these substances, these artificial types of sweeteners, things like that, act differently in our brain chemistry too. And I think it's very important what you all were saying about the fact that our bodies know how to recognize real food. They understand what that is and how to process that. Whereas that's not always the same when we're talking about synthetics. So when somebody's talking about a synthetic, sweetener, or also a synthetic hormone, for example, our bodies do not recognize those in the same way and know how to process those. It breaks down the communication and the chemistry in our bodies because our brains are, and our subconscious is in control of all of those unconscious processes in our bodies. It breaks down that communication. And so it is a very different path internally when we're utilizing things that are chemically composed in the world versus something that our bodies can recognize and say, oh, I know what that is. It's been around for thousands of years, and I know how to process that. So there's a couple different layers here. There's the habit part on the external side, and then there's the habits internally of how our body processes those too, because whatever we're putting in, it's two parts, right? So when we're thinking about something or we're ingesting something, because we have an association, we have a thought that's actually attached, or an association that's attached to that food or that substance, right? Then there's an emotion, which is actually a physiological response in our body. We just put words to it. And there's a chemical physiological internal response as well as an external behavior. So it's very complex. And so when we start to really look at what is going on with our habits and becoming aware of them and what we're putting into our bodies and what we are putting into our minds, or that's associated with what we're putting into our bodies, that awareness is that first step to be able to change those habits and to make those really positive changes internally and in our habits on the outside of what do you actually grab to put in.
Yes, that's a great point. And when people are, have a sugar tooth or sugar craving, I always talk to my clients about what is the emotion behind you wanting to go eat that cookie or that cake? Like, pause for a moment and find if are you stress eating? Are you are you bored eating? Are you like, what is the emotion behind that? What is the driving force? So it's so important to pause and reflect on what is actually happening. How did we program our minds? How did we program our emotions in correlation with our food? Because that also gives our bodies this cortisol spike. It gives us all sorts of, these reactions within our body. So just pausing is such a great tool of why, finding out what is the root, and also delaying. I always tell my clients, yes, here's a healthy cookie recipe. This is great. It's full of whatever good things for you. However, before you go for that cookie, I want you to delay it. Just delay it for 20 minutes. Delay it for 30 minutes. Just see if that emotion, feeling passes. Hydrate yourself and see if you still want it. See if you still need it. Like, there's such a powerful tool to just use your body to listen to the body, listen to how your body is communicating and what is it communicating itself. So I love what you just contributed. So let me try to get through some of these. Nadia said, raw food is the answer. This is another myth that she wants debunked. And I love this one because this one is very, very controversial. We have those vegans out there. We have the carnivore diet right now. We have so many different areas that we're really, just completely conflicting on this topic. And either one can be completely devastating to your health. So really, it depends on the person as well. So from a microbial standpoint, I think it's important to understand that our bodies are actually born with the microbes to digest. They're the same as the wolves. They're actually made to digest meat proteins. Like, that is what we were born with. And then any microbes to process our vegetables is put in us. So we have to build those microbes. I think that that's really important to know, because, and it's also another factor that's really important to know, is that your blood type is going to also determine what your body needs. There was a great book called Eat for Your Type, and I really refer to that resource and that research a lot when I'm working with my clients, because if you are, for example, if you're A positive blood type, and you go on the carnivore diet, you're gonna wreck yourself, because the A positive blood type is really made more for the vegan and vegetarian lifestyle, or I should say more of like the Mediterranean lifestyle. The more oils, the fish, the chicken, but less proteins, more vegetables, more fats. But if you go into red meat is going to be devastating to your health. And then you have also the blood type of O positive, which is me. I need all of the red meats. I need all of the proteins that I can get. I am like, show me the steak, give me the steak, and just basically show it the fire. I want it as raw as possible. But that is my blood type, and that is how I consume foods and how my body processes them and needs them. So there is balance, and I think that this is a really important nutrition myth to really discuss, because like I said, the just raw foods can be very healing to your body for a small amount of time if you're under the right conditions. This is why it's so important to work with someone who is a health coach, or is someone who knows how the body chemistry works. And I know, Judy, you probably have a lot to contribute to this as well. What you see this on a blood chemistry side, you're able to kind of see what the effects of, let's say, just an all vegan raw food diet can do. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I think it's super important. When I went to school for integrative nutrition, there are literally hundreds of different diets, dietary plans. And when we talk diet, we're talking about a pattern of eating, right? It doesn't have to be calorie restriction. I'd love to get into that myth in a little bit, but it's really, what do you consistently eat? That is your diet, right? The diet of a bird is worms and seeds, right? So a diet of a human is incredibly varied, and there's hundreds of them. And we're all bio individuals. We're biologically unique at a cellular level. Every cell in your body is just as unique as your fingerprints are. And so we need to know what's going on in your body. How do you particularly react? Blood type is a guide, right? But your hormones are a guide. There's
Yes.
there's a lot of people who have adrenal issues or thyroid issues who do not do well with raw vegetables. Or you have people who have maybe stomach acid issues. Most people who think they have high stomach acid probably actually have a low stomach acid, which means that they cannot properly break down more complex foods like meats and so forth. And so then they're deficient in minerals. Think, calcium is a stone, magnesium is a stone, iron is a metal, copper is a metal. You're going to have the right amount of stomach acid to break that down and absorb those nutrients. And so one of the biggest things that I see here is that people are like, hey, this worked for my sister's neighbor, so I should try that. Or my husband's cousin's, stepdaughter did this and it worked great for them. Just look at them. So that's what would work for me, instead of recognizing that you're a bio individual. And so while vegan and vegetarian diets can work really well for some people, most of that is for a limited period of time, because you need more than is just in those diets. In fact, I know people who have wrecked their health by doing vegan, vegetarian diets, thinking they were being very healthy, but they weren't getting the nutrients that they personally needed. So that's why I say, hey, it's super individualized here. And you really do need to talk to someone who can see what's going on for you and help you figure out what's going to work for you, right? I know we had talked about, a carnivore diet was working really well for some. And so maybe you can speak to that, Sheila, because that is working really well for you, you mentioned. But it is definitely something that's like a trial and error. So maybe you want to talk about how you figured out that would work best for you.
Okay. Well, what I've done with it for the most part is because I felt that I actually had less inflammation. I lost weight, had more energy. So that's one of the reasons why I felt it would work for me. And I also was able to get off of my blood pressure medication by doing that. So, because I was having some issues there. And so that for me was huge. Because I look back at pictures and I can see, I mean, you can just see my inflammation in my body. And then when I started doing that, I was like, whoa, it just, so I was able to feel like I was getting my life back, So for me, that was huge. My skin, my hair, everything was just improving. And I was just feeling so much better, so much more energy. I wasn't taking naps in the afternoon. I wasn't sitting down at all. And I also felt when I was eating, I actually felt fuller longer. So I was able to, like when I got busy, I wasn't feeling like I was constantly starving. My husband and I did some different cleanses, and a lot of them were low fat, like it was like fruits, veggies. And I was literally in tears because I was so hungry. I was starving and I would literally cry at the sight of meat. I was like, I want that. Um, so for me, it was like I needed something to help me feel fuller longer. And I was really, and one thing I don't do though, I don't really count my veggies necessarily. I'll eat those and I don't, if they're, cause I know those are a little higher in carbs and stuff. And I don't, if I feel like I need them and I want them, I'll eat them. I don't really, I won't skimp on those necessarily, but I do like my meat. I've always kind of been like that. Not a big red meat eater, I know, because I am type A. So I will have that sometimes, but I will do, or A positive, I should say. But I love fish. I love chicken. So I'll eat a lot of that and I'll make different meals, but I'll add things in there that are very filling, as far as that goes. But I have had to cut out certain starches and stuff like potatoes. I don't eat as much of those. I don't do a lot of breads and things like that because I feel like that always makes me feel very sluggish. But that's what's been working for me really, really well. I can't say for the next person what it will do because my husband doesn't feel like for him that what I do, he doesn't like that necessarily all the time. He said, I don't feel like that works for me. So I do agree that everybody is different. So it's just going to depend.
I think it's also important to
Yeah.
note that what works well for us at one point in our lives may not be best for us at another point in our lives. Our bodies
Yeah.
are changing, like we talked about earlier, that we're getting new cells, we're getting different cells, our bodies are reacting, they're under different stress. And so what works really great at one point in our lives may not be what's best for us right now.
Yeah, no, I agree too. I agree because I always
Absolutely.
pay attention to that too to see if there's something, that isn't, if I don't feel like it's working or I feel like it's too much. Yeah, it's very interesting being in tune with your body. It's hard to explain, but sometimes I can just really
Intuitive.
feel that.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of intuition that goes into it, really checking in with ourselves. And I think that that's part of the problem that we go through so much. We ignore that subconscious mind. We ignore the promptings that our gut is telling us, and we push past that and consume foods that are not good for us. And that's why we get to the point where we reach our breaking point and say, oh, we got to do a diet now. We got to go, let's go explore a diet. Let's go try the keto diet. Let's try the carnivore. But really pausing and listening to our intuition, just like Sheila did. She paused and said, I really feel like I need to go the carnivore diet. And so what that's doing is really nourishing a part of her body that was probably really depleted. She was probably really depleted in the right amount of proteins. And so once that body fully starts using those proteins properly, then it's able to function better and heal up other cells in our body, and we're replenishing those new cells, right? Or regenerating those new healthy cells. And I always say, I'm not a no carb, I'm a right carb person. There's a difference between low carb, no carb, and right carb. Our bodies need those carbohydrates. We really do. And so it's the right carb for your right body type, and in the right way, consuming them. Even just, for example, I know that you could speak to this too, Judy, that eating slowly has such a huge impact. How many of my clients or of your clients sit there and eat at their desk, just shoveling food while they're working, right? They're just throwing it back down the hatch. And that in itself is causing destruction to our body. If you pause, chew your food, chew slowly. And I've made it a new rule for myself even this year, like no eating at my desk. Like I can't do that anymore. My desk for a little bit there was in my kitchen. So I was, like just kind of sitting up at our kitchen counter. I'm like, okay, I'm eating and I'm doing this work and I'm stressing for what needs to get done. And I'm like, no, hold on, I can't do this. I recognized that my body was responding a different way when I was doing that. So it's really, really important to pause, spend that time really nourishing your body, and prioritizing consuming those foods that do resonate with your body, that do make you feel good. You're honoring your temple when you do that. You're honoring yourself. You are setting yourself as a priority. And honestly, when you start to prioritize yourself in this regard, other people are going to prioritize you as well. They're going to experiencing you in a way of not someone to be ran over, someone who is strong, someone who is in control of their life. And it's a powerful way to actually even see just the impact of your relationships around you when you start taking control of the relationship with yourself. And it all starts with food. So another one, I'm going to go through a couple of these. Let's see. Jen Quirk says, honestly, probably the fact that it's us pinching off our energy due to stress, subconscious traumas, and the way we choose to perceive the world. That's the cause of our physical and emotional distress, not the lack of supplementation. There's certainly a place for supplements, but unless that pinched off energy is addressed and corrected, you aren't truly getting to the root of the problem, which again, that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier as well. I think that's so true. Again, we've kind of talked about that, the traumas and the subconscious ways through our food and stuff. It's so powerful of just really diving in and finding that emotional root cause of those foods, and what we're gravitating towards. It can make a big difference. Another one is, I think it's Saara. Sarah? I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm so sorry. She says, fat makes you fat. This is a huge myth that needs to be debunked. And I know, Judy, with your brain health expertise, do you want to debunk this really quick, because this is huge?
Yeah, your body needs fat in order to function. Your brain needs fat in order to function. You need fat to produce hormones, and we're not just talking sex hormones. We're talking, brain hormones, brain chemistry, just those basic level of thyroid hormones, all sorts of chemicals in your body are manufactured from fat. Think of vitamin D. It's actually not a vitamin, it's a neurohormone. And as a neurohormone, it controls so much in your body. But your brain is, the majority of it is fat. And so, interestingly, the low fat, no fat craze of the 80s led to the spike of dementia and Alzheimer's in the 90s and early 2000s, because that fat deprivation affects your brain. And we all know this, especially as moms, because we're told, make sure your babies get lots of fat. Don't put them on low fat milk and all that. They need the whole fat till they're at least 2. Our brains are still developing. They're still developing. You still need that fat, and your body actually burns that fat as energy. it doesn't convert it and store it as fat in your body. Our actually sugars are more likely to be stored as fat, and your fat is a mechanism of protection in your body on a number of levels. And I'm sure Jody can speak to that as well, because fat is protection. And for one thing, your fat is a protection against toxins. Fat encapsulates those toxins and stores it kind of and isolates it away from your bloodstream and those sorts of things. So it's not fat making you fat.
Yes, and Jody, also, I think that there's a word association here, right? There's also the subconscious fat makes you fat. We're looking at ourselves and we're saying, I look fat, I feel fat. And then there's this, this rewiring that's happening, right? So I think that there's a subconscious thought there as far as that word association goes too as well.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And we have so many different associations in our minds with food. If you think back to times when you were stressed out, like you were saying, you having a high level of stress, eating in front of your computer, your body was responding differently. If we're stressed, if we're overwhelmed, if we're experiencing grief, all of these types of emotions can trigger obviously different hormones, like you were talking about, Judy, right? When people think of hormones, yeah, it's not just about sex hormones, it's about all the different types of hormones and those protectors. And so then you couple that with our societal pressures and expectations, and it leads to a lot of food restriction and mindless eating and using food as a coping mechanism. And so a lot of people, in our kind of high constant stress world, overeat as a way to self-soothe or due to heightened nervous system activation. And if your nervous system is activated, then we process things differently. You might want more high fat foods or high sugar, things that are going to be that heavy amount of fuel because you're in that fight or flight mode. And so it really is so important, exactly what you're saying, Jamie, to pause. That mindfulness piece is so huge, that awareness, hitting that pause button, because our emotional center in our brain moves so much faster, like 4 times faster than the thinking parts of our brain. And so we come from this place of emotion and these subconscious associations without even thinking about it. So when we do pause and become more intentional and mindful in those habits of stopping and chewing your food, like you said, and tuning into your body's hunger and fullness cues, which does take 20 minutes, right? It takes that long for all of those signals to catch up with you to where you're consciously thinking, oh, I feel full, or I didn't actually want that. I wanted it emotionally, but it's not what my body needs right now. And so choosing those foods with more of that intention and mindfulness and that energy behind our food choices makes such a huge difference, because when we connect with our bodies and break free from those emotional and conditioned associations and eating habits, then we can have a more healthy relationship with our food. Because if we're thinking, oh, I don't want to get fat, so I'm not going to eat fat, that is really going to be harmful if that's exactly what you need in order to heal and be healthy and to have that healing, like Judy was talking about with your brain health. If we restrict so much because of the latest fad or societal pressures, or, today this is bad for us and this is good. Like you were saying with your dad, Jamie, right? Of like, oh, well, don't eat that, eat this instead. We hear so many of these mixed messages, and then that really colors our relationship with our bodies and with food, and we become very disconnected. So getting back to that connection, like Sheila was talking about, of what feels good to me, how does my body respond to this, and figuring out what works best for your body and working with it rather than at cross purposes makes such a huge difference. That mindfulness and nervous system regulation, you put those 3 pieces together, and you're going to be able to really change the game.
Mm. Yes, I love it. Um, that kind of leads me to another question here. Well, first of all, Cole just responded. Cole Robinson said, salt is bad for you, all salt. So that's a great one. We want to debunk as well. But Marcy says, skipping breakfast as your fast is fine. You know, I'm reading a book right now. It's a fantastic book called Reversing Alzheimer's. And the doctor who wrote this book literally has a clinic, a nursing home for Alzheimer's patients that check in and then check out because they are reversed and they don't necessarily need the care that they need anymore or that they used to need. And one of the biggest things that she addresses is fat intake and your sleep. When our bodies, when we're sleeping and we're not getting good quality sleep, our body or our brains are not detoxing those neurotoxins the way they're supposed to. They're not taking the trash out. And the best thing you can do whenever we're causing these, especially if you have like sleep apnea or something along those lines, you're causing micro brain damage every single night. And so the way to combat that is to first thing in the morning, give yourself fats. Like start consuming those healthy fats first thing in the morning. That will help that repairing of the brain. And I always talk to my clients too about making sure they're getting those healthy fats before they go to bed so that it's a sustaining through the night. So a shot of MCT oil. It also helps with the cortisol levels because our cortisol spikes at 3 in the morning. If you're a person who's getting up to go to the bathroom at 2 a.m. and you're like feeling like I'm reading your mail right now, you need to be consuming some fats before you go to bed because it's so important to help stabilize those cortisol spikes when you sleep. So moving on to the salts, I think that's a great question, Cole, because Cole, he works outside. He is does a lot of construction work. He grew up in construction, and dehydration is a big thing when you're out there sweating under the sun, working outside all day long, really physically active, or maybe you're in the gym and you're doing a lot of cardio and you're not getting salts because you've heard salt is bad for you. You are wrecking your health. So Judy, can you talk on that a little bit?
Yeah, and a lot of people think about salts just like you're talking about the sweating and those sorts of things. But when you look at your salt levels on your labs, if your salt levels are low, that doesn't mean that you need more salt. And if your sodium levels are high, it doesn't mean that you need less salt in your diet. It's actually an indicator of your adrenal function because your adrenals are responsible for balancing out your electrolytes, your sodium, your potassium, your magnesium, your carbon dioxide, even. And so when you look at that CMP test, that comprehensive metabolic panel, when you look at those, a lot of that tells you how is your adrenal system working? How is your body responding to stress? And so we need these things in our diet so that our body can use them. And your body was created with the ability to seek homeostasis, right? You take in a lot of salt, your body is like, oh, wait, I'm thirsty. And you'll hold on to more water because it's diluting it to the right level. Because if you had too much, that could be toxic. If you have too little, that can be equally damaging. And so your body is incredibly designed with the ability to get that balance right for you. But it does put a tax on your adrenals, on your kidneys to try to continually do this. So we want to get healthy salts in. Celtic sea salt, Himalayan sea salt. Those are both really great because they are not just sodium. They're a balance of other minerals, so you're getting it across the board. And a lot of people think they have to restrict the salt at the table, but actually, probably what you really want to be restricting is the ultra processed foods because actually, by definition, if you are cooking all of your food at home and salting it as you please, you're on a low sodium diet compared to the rest of society who's doing ultra processed foods, packaged foods, frozen foods, fast foods, restaurant foods, all those sorts of things that make it hyper palatable. And so we want to say, hey, well, how can I support my body? Because yes, if you are out sweating, you're losing all of those electrolytes, you do need salt. you also need some good other minerals, which is why you want to choose your salts wisely so that you're getting a balance.
That's such an important topic, or an important question. So thanks, Cole, for throwing that out there. And great words, Judy. I couldn't agree with you more. I love being able to provide people with this information so that they're really, truly getting some clarity. And what's so great is that whenever you start to find that clarity, it just resonates deeply with you. You're like, yep. And if you tune into that, you're going to be able to find those truths. Like, really listen to your intuition, because everybody has, like you said, you're biodiverse. So it's such a great topic. I think we've covered everybody's questions for the most part. Enoch says the 100% carnivore diet is healthy, meaning 100% meat and water and nothing else. I think we've already kind of debunked that. Skipping breakfast if you're fast is fine. We kind of debunked that as well. Make sure we're getting in those fats at all. It's all different. It's so important to find a resource and someone you trust that you align with that can really help you navigate all of these lingering questions and myths that are out there, to really find what's best for your body, for your healing, for your journey through this transformation. So that leads me to say we have an amazing community full of these practitioners with over 100 hours of workshops that we're talking about everything from narcissistic abuse recovery to eating for your cortisol. I mean, it's all across the board, from amazing practitioners like Judy, like Jody, like Sheila, that we're all coming together and offering valuable information so that you can find that practitioner that you align with, that you can go find those answers. And honestly, sometimes it's meaning, you have to build a team. And when you have a team of people to support you, mind, body, and spirit, that is really where that transformation happens. So I invite you to come into our community. If you are interested in joining, go ahead and there's a link below, join-ahs.org. You'll actually find a link in there to join our community and go tap into these resources. I do want to say that when you are a member of our community, all of our health fair events are included in your membership. So you're going to be able to join any one of those workshops. Even if we bring in a big name speaker, you're able to have that your ticket already purchased and ready to go. The fee for joining our community is a low subscription rate of $35 a month. And that, like I said, gets you hours and hours of resources. You can throw in your questions. You can find these practitioners. You can converse with them, shoot them a message, really dive into the resources and really find the solutions that resonate with you and, that resonate with your intuition as to what your next step is for your health. And I will say that I love this group of practitioners because each one of them, they're committed to your transformation. Like, they are so committed to your transformation. We have personal stories. Each one of us have personal stories of transformation that has brought us to this point where we are passionate about what we talk about. Judy's passion came from going through her car wreck, like she mentioned before, of like really, she was unable to speak and unable to walk for 6 years before she found the truth and started to heal her own body. You were on 71 medications, right? And was able to holistically take her body off of those medications and truly transform. And there are so many resources in here, guys. I'm just really passionate about connecting you to this resource because these practitioners are just a value, like, I can't even say how important it is to really address the mind, body, and the spirit. We also have an eating psychology coach with hours of workshops in there. If there is some psychology that's going on in your mind that's really prohibiting your ability to transform, reach out to Amber, our eating psychology coach. If it's self-sabotage, I have some clients that really, they know what to do. They've been given all of the information and they're able to do it. They want to do it, but yet there's something that just completely derails them. And it is that subconscious trauma that they're dealing with. And so therefore the perfect teammate is Jody, is really understanding what is that self-sabotage all about? What's happening on that level? And then there is powerful supplements and essential oils that can really support your journey through this entire process and really help you ground and listen to yourself. And grounding is such a powerful way to understand what is going on, whether it's nutrition or it's feeding your soul. It is a powerful way to really connect with that. And then there's also our emotion code practitioner who couldn't join us today, but the emotional side of things with Kate Simpson is really going in and finding those emotions that are blocked and or trapped inside of our bodies that are prohibiting our growth and transformation. All of this you're going to find inside of our community and inside of our workshops. So please, if this is the topic that you are just really trying to find your pathway through, finding your transformation, go to our website listed below, join-ahs.org, and sign up for our next event on the 22nd. There's going to be so much information. We'll also drop in, let me see, I'll drop in a code here. Jody, why don't you drop in your code for them to join the event at no cost? Because, it's typically $35 to join the event. But we have coupon codes. Each one of our practitioners have coupon codes. They can drop you one and you can attend at no cost. And so we really want you in there. We want you to be able to try our community for free. So there is a free trial of our community. And then there's also, if it's just not in your budget right now, but you're still wanting to learn and you're still wanting to attend these events, there is a free option of our Alternative Healthcare Solutions memberships that you can go in and still get valuable resources, connect with these practitioners, connect with other people on the journey, and hear testimonies. There's so many powerful testimonies in our community there, where you're going to be able to find that person that has that story, that connection of what their transformation looks like. And so it's just really powerful. Sorry, Jody, I think your coupon code for the event was what I was looking for. But really finding that transformation and finding that person that you align with. Maybe you've heard our stories today and you've said, yeah, I really struggle with blood clots and I really don't know, what the next step for food is for me. And, I really resonated with Jamie. Reach out. I'd love to talk to you. Maybe you have been experienced, I think that's all caps too. Sorry. Come on, Jody. I thought you had this together. Maybe you've been in a car wreck, or maybe you've had some trauma. I know that I had one client that I had a car accident that I connected with Judy, and they really resonated and really found that synergy as to their experience together. I think it's so important to find that person that you align with, because that's where the trust comes in. And then that's when the subconscious walls come down. And then that is when the healing begins and really transforms. So there you go. We got it. So use coupon code Jody, all caps, and you get in free. And actually, I think we have multiple. So I think we've got Sheila and we've got Judy as well. So use any one of their coupon codes and get into that event free at the end of the month here, the 22nd. It starts from 8 a.m. Central Standard Time and ends at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And the event is actually open. You'll be able to access all of those replays, ask your questions, tour all of our vendor booths for 72 hours after the event ends. So if you can't make it on that Saturday, I totally understand. Saturdays are busy, crazy, but still register, because you're going to have access to all of those resources. And most of our practitioners give out something free whenever they do their workshop. Maybe it's via free consultation, a free evaluation, or free sample. So you don't want to skip out on those freebies that are going to be valuable and a resource for you. So guys, this has been such a great topic. I know we have so much more that we didn't even address. I mean, I've got like 20 other talking points that we could probably have a whole nother event to talk about. But it's so powerful, and we will really be talking about those at the end of the month, and really diving deep into those. And you can jump in, like I said, you can jump into those workshops and just talk with us. Like, come on screen, or not come on screen. You can drop it in the chat, so you're able to go in and just really practically tailor the workshop to you. If you are interactive and you're involved, you're going to be able to access these experts and really understand, your body, understand your transformation journey, and really dive into those resources. So I can't express how important this is. So thank you guys all for joining us today. And I know everybody's going to have workshops on there. We'll have the whole list in our registration. You can go to that link, the join-ahs.org. That's where you're going to find a community and register for our event on the 22nd. So such a good topic, right, guys?
Yeah, fantastic topic. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Well, go prepare to feast today intentionally. And listen to your body, listen to what your needs are, slow down, enjoy your food, have that communion with those who sit at the table with you, and have a blessed day. And we will see you on the 22nd. Bye, guys. Thank you.